Hello and welcome to the Behind the Beat podcast with me, Katie Russell from Planet Drum Music School in London. Join us as we talk to special guests and industry professionals about all things music. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Behind the Beat podcast with me, Katie Russell from the Planet Drum Music School in London. Today we have an exciting guest on. We've got Robert Bryan here with us. Robert Bryan is an amazing UK drummer, and I will let him tell you a little bit more about himself. So hi, Robert, how are you?
Hi, Katie and Alan. I'm fine, man. How are you doing?
Yes, good, we're all good here, thank you.
It's good to see you both. It's been an awfully long time.
Yeah, it has been a very long time. So you actually did a masterclass with us probably, 2 or 3 years ago now? Obviously before COVID.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. So it's really good to catch up with you again. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into drumming.
Okay, well, it's like an AA meeting. I'm Rob Bryan. I play drums. I've been playing for about 40 odd years, I think. You know, I started when I was 9. My father taught me. He was a local in the Bath, Bristol area, which is where I still live. He was a gigging jazz drummer. So if anyone came down this way from London or wherever, if Ronnie Scott was coming down or Tubby Hayes, Dad was the first call on drums. There was a few others, but Dad was definitely on the list. And he played with Tom Jones, a club in Bath, along with like a stripper and some things. It was the 60s. It was a crazy time. So he was into that. And then he eventually gave up about 1970, which is when I was born. And in 1977, 78 or something, 79, I got the bug to play drums, watching Top of the Pops and so on. And that was it, really. I was just bitten by the drumming bug, and I just kept playing through my school years. And then when I left school, I worked in a drum shop, Assembly Music in Bath, which unfortunately is no longer there. And then through that, I started working for Sonal Drums as well, as a warehouse guy, because their distribution was in Bath, of all places, for the UK. Steve Gardner, very good friend of mine, and helped me in the business in a great way, employed me and had me working there. And while I was doing that, I was still busy gigging. I wasn't teaching at that point, but I was just busy gigging around the area, doing some recording sessions, because in this area, we've got Peter Gabriel's studio, Real World, which is amazing. We've got Riverside Studios and NARM Studios. And between those 3 studios, I'd go and do a good job. People would say, Rob was good. Remember him for the next time. And, it just kind of sprouted from there. And then a few visiting American artists came over and started working with me, a band called Modern English, who are really big in America, and also Koti Mundi from Kicker on the Coconuts. And then just from those sort of contacts, I met Hugh Cornwell, who just left the Stranglers. And it just went like that, and then it's a corny analogy, but the tree with the branches just spread. And I ended up working with Siouxsie Sioux and Simple Minds, a lot of those 80s bands, and on we go, so that's kind of how it started. And I've won some Grammys last year. I mean, I haven't officially got a Grammy here. I've just got the certificates to say I played on Grammy winning records, but That's good enough for me, right?
Yeah. What was it, Rob?
There was for... they're both for the same artist, Laura Pausini, who's not known here at all, but in Italy, she's a bit like Madonna, and in Brazil and South America, she plays stadium. She's massive, but no one knows her here. So I did 2 sessions with her. And, the first time I did it, it was just a session. The bass player from Goldfrapp, Charlie Jones, rang me and said, look, we've got this singer coming over. David has done all the string arrangements and he's producing some things. He works with Coldplay and he's also worked with Goldfrapp. So that's the connection. Again, all these little connections. The musical community is a family, isn't it? Everyone knows everyone. So I went along and did them and thought nothing of it. And then all of a sudden people are telling me it's in for a Grammy in the Latin music section or something. And we got runners up 1 year, and then we did another album. I mean, Ash Zone was on the record as well. I can't say it was all me. Ash was on it as well. And I think another guy's, I can't remember his name now, but anyway. And then the next year we won it. I mean, I stayed up till like 2 a.m. to watch it live. from the UK, and we won it. I mean, I remember putting on Facebook something like, "Sat watching the Grammys, got a glass of wine, I'm a bit tired, but I'm gonna. Oh, hang on, she's on now." And then literally 2 minutes later, we won. And I didn't expect to do that. And if you go back on my post, you'll see it. But so yeah, I've got 2 certificates. They're over there. You know, I'm going to frame them eventually to say you've played on Grammy winning albums, which is brilliant. So you know, my career has taken me through lots of different twists and turns, and lots of touring, lots of masterclasses that I've got into lately, and also working on my own music. But I'd like to say, just a busy working drummer, and I'm so thankful that I can say those words, especially after what we've all just been through. And it's just been a great time, and I don't see it stopping. And I'm back out on the road with Loreena Mckennitt next year. They've got some dates in the diary that were already in the diary before COVID. So we were first in the queue. So we thankfully get pushed along. So all our theatres and arenas that were booked are still going to be booked, and we're first in the queue. So that was good, because we were never touring in COVID year anyway, because it was the election year. Right. And she didn't want to tour with the Trumpness going on, which is totally fair enough. So that's why we were already ahead of the queue, because we had a year off and the tour was booked already. So yeah, that in a nutshell, as much as I can make it, that's me.
Amazing. It's such a good story. So did your dad, was he the one that taught you, or did you have lessons from someone else?
Dad taught me. Yeah, he was, a very quick story, but he retired in 70, like I said, and he bought himself a double bass drum Beverly kit. Now, Beverly was affiliated with Premier. I think it was seen as maybe their cheaper end. I don't, maybe not cheaper, but just a more, just a different end of Premier. Because even if I say budget, it sounds cheap. But anyway, he bought this double bass drum kit. And I used to hear him play him in the garage. And he would say to me, "Rob, do you ever want to play drums?" And I'd go and watch him and be like, "Wow, Dad, that's amazing. What a racket. This is great." And I said, "No, you're okay." And then this was definitely 1978, 79. And as I say, I'd started watching Top of the Pops. And I know I've talked about this loads of times, but it is a true story. And he said to me, "Okay, I'm definitely selling the kit. Someone's coming to pick it up next week. This is your last chance saloon. Do you want to play drums, son?" I said, "No, I'm not interested. I want to play keyboards," because I was listening to Gary Newman and all the synth stuff that was out, and Ultravox and all that, and or guitar like the Police. That's what I want to do, And anyway, so he sold it, and then one day I went down to the garage, and there was a pair of sticks there, and a Louis Bellson drum method. And I remember just flicking through it, looking at all these dots and music, thinking, what the devil's that? And then just tapping stuff out, like you do. And I thought, actually, this could be fun. And I'd already tried a very cheap guitar Mum bought me from Woolworths that I was rubbish on, and a little on-tempi keyboard. And I thought, I'm going to have to get lessons. I thought I could just play, like kids do. You just think you can do it. Then Dad came home one day from work and said, I said to him, "Dad, I found these sticks, and I think I do want to play drums." And he was like, "You are kidding. I've just sold this double bass drum kit. I've given you chance after chance." He said, "Right, I'll teach you, but the deal is you start with just a snare drum, a practice pad, one of the old Premier ones," because he taught me traditional grip. So it's the one that sort of ramps up like a wedge. I remember it really well. I've lost it somewhere along my house and flat moves, and he started me on that. And he said, "After 6 months, I'll buy you a bass drum pedal, so you can start working on your right foot." And he did that. So some people have gone, "Oh, that's really harsh, just really old school." But actually, it really helped me. I mean, he was a lovely man, don't get me wrong. He wasn't like a taskmaster, but he wanted me to learn properly. He said, "If you're going to do it, you're going to do it right." And he bought me a little manuscript book, a little yellow manuscript book, and he used to write all the little exercises, crotchets, quavers, triplets, and 16s. He said, "They're your 4 core rudiments. That's all you need to know to start with. All hand to hand, lead with your left as well as your right. And then I'll write you various combinations of those 4 rudiments and put them in little 4-bar exercises." And I remember, I wish I still had that book. And then I started getting into other styles of music, because he had a record collection that was just amazing, which I've now inherited. And I'd listen to different styles, and he'd start playing me different things. And I used to go to lessons at school, but I didn't get on quite so well. And the music teacher, she was lovely, but she had to teach everything. It was one size fits all. So she had the tune a day books and stuff. And it was just a little bit kind of like, well, Dad's given me more in-depth stuff than that. I can do all what the other class are doing, but he's given me more insight into other things, how to apply it onto the drum set. And bless her, she didn't know. She was just reading the book and telling the kids to play what was in the book. So really, Dad was my main teacher, but then I would say it was his record collection, and also my mum, who wasn't a musician, but she just loved music. Her love of music, the two of them coming together, because it was classic. Dad was the muso, so his record collection ranged from like Herbie Hancock, to George Duke, to classical music, to Antonio Carlos Jobim, to late 60s Beatles and Hendrix and funk. And Mum was like, hated all that. Mum wanted to listen to the Beatles, the Beach Boys, the Carpenters, melodic music. She'd always have Terry Wogan, bless him, God rest his soul, on the radio every morning, and I'd listen to Peter, Paul and Mary on there, and Elton John, and all this stuff, and it all went in. So literally, I had one side was Mum's, and the other side was Dad's, and in the middle was me. And I was literally soaking it up. And in our house, there was a big long hallway in our old house. The right was the kitchen. To the left was the living room where Dad had his record player. And on a Sunday morning, it would be music wars, because Dad would be playing his stuff with the door shut. And if you stand in the hall, you would hear that out your left ear. And out your right ear, you'd hear Mum, with family favourites on the radio or something. And it was wonderful. And I'm so thankful I had that, because I always think too much of one or the other, for me, would have made me the balanced musician that I am. So sometimes when people have seen my CV, it can be very muso-related stuff I've done, and also very pop-related, almost throwaway stuff that I've done as well. But of course, to me, none of it is, because it's all part of the makeup of what I love doing. And I try to recommend to all my students to do a similar thing. Listen to everything, be open to everything, because you never know where you can get your influences from and how it can help you with your music making,
Yeah, definitely. So tell us, how did you then get into teaching? Because you do teaching now as well, don't you? So what was the transition like from sort of session drumming and then into teaching?
It was really hard. I mean, after I left Sonor, I started doing other little jobs in warehouses and shops around the area, like we all do or did. I mean, some of my friends were lucky to have very rich parents, so they didn't have to do that. They could stay home all day practicing. I couldn't. I had to go and do stuff. And then one day, one of my friends said to me, why don't you teach? His name's Jerry Crozier Cole. He's a great jazz funk guitarist. He's an amazing jazz player, and all-round guitarist. And he said to me, why don't you get into the private schools? Because the money is amazing. And they allow you to go away touring, because they like to say to their parents that, people on their teaching roster are artists and they tour and blah, blah, blah. It's good for business. So I did that, and I went down to Sherborne School in Dorset for the interview, and I thought, I've got no chance, because it said, do you play tuned percussion, your timps and all that business? And I don't. I can blag it, but I can't play it well, properly, like a proper professional player can. And I've seen these guys play. It's genius what they do. With their different mallets and the textures they can create. I just hit the darn things, at different volumes. That's no good. And they employed me because they said they wanted someone a bit more rock and roll than the last guy they had. So I kind of got into it that way. And I did find it difficult, because part of me was like, I want to be at home practicing. But then the other part of me is I need to pay the bills. And then there was a middle one saying, look, you're still in music, you're still making money from music, and you're doing it from your drums. This is great. What is the problem? So I kind of got rid of that silly ego thing where musicians think, those who can't teach or something, whatever that saying is. And I hate that. Yeah. And it's as we all know, it's just a silly statement that people throw out. It's just daft. And I really got into it. And then through I started endorsing Sonor drums. And they were aware of my educational sort of thing and said, why don't you start doing some little master classes? And I said, oh my goodness, I'm not like the people I'd gone to see. They said, no, but we do homegrown ones where we go to schools and colleges and shops. You don't have to try and compete with Dennis Chambers. Who's got a cat in hell's chance of doing that? He said, that's not what we're saying. Go out and educate. You don't have to play it. And I thought, wow, that's really good. So I ended up doing this DVD, which you can't get anymore, but called Technique and Musicality. And I
remember it.
Do you remember? Of course. I gave you a copy probably years ago, my man. Yeah, because I've got to say, you were one of the first people to really embrace what I was doing. And I was going to say at some point today, so I'm so thankful for that, because if it wasn't for you giving me those few chances to come up, and one to build my confidence, two to get me going, then I probably wouldn't have done so much with that masterclass clinic idea, so thank you for that. And all those little times I did it, as I say, the confidence built and built and built. And I started going out using that DVD as like a show. That's what I would go and do. Like a band releases an album and then they go and showcase that. And it just really worked for me. And I just thought, I almost got it published by Hudson. I was so close to getting it published because they were interested, but they said, being honest with you, that there's too much good stuff on it. To make money from it, we need you to take bits of it out so we get a series. And I said, well, I didn't really want to do that, but I know they need to make money and they need to have a business plan. I'm a drummer, not a businessman. But the plus side for me was the people who bought that said, I love the fact that you had so many different chapters that if I was in the studio, I'd say, oh, where's Rob's chapter on studio playing? Or where's his one on warm-ups? Or where's his one on this, that, and, the hi-hat playing or whatever. And I kind of like that. So from there, it just kind of grew. And then DW, I joined them and they embraced me. Of course, they've got a massive roster of clinicians, but they really wanted me to do some educational stuff too. And then it just went nuts from there. They got me, they were a bit more proactive and they got me into all kinds of things. But do you know what? One thing I really like about teaching one-on-one or a class of people, whatever it might be, it's just the fact that it allows me to relearn again and get excited about the instrument again. Watching the face of a student, whatever age, whatever background, whoever they are, suddenly their eyes turn on and the light goes on that moment. And it could be a complicated thing. It could be a simple thing. It could be a sound on the drums, anything. That is what I think you, me, all of us as educators and musicians, that's what we live for, because we had that light bulb moment at one point. And that's what I strive to get from a room full of people or just one person. That's the passion that I've got for it. And that's why I keep doing it. Some people I know do it just for the money. That isn't me. I actually really, really enjoy educating and I was just sat over there on my sofa on Sunday, writing out some more little snare drum patterns with different accents and stuff, and I've got reams and books of this stuff that I've lugged around from house to house. Sometimes I wish think why, but I'm so glad I've got it because it's almost my life in music. My ideas put down and then I can take it to a classroom of people or just one person, pass that information on.
So are these your like exercises and stuff that you've written yourself?
Yeah. And like when people say, oh, well, I've seen someone like that before. And I always say to people, look, no one can come in at this point in time of the human race and be completely different. There will be some drummers that come through that you think, wow, but there's always something that has to be borrowed. It's like when I go to do things at BIM and ACM and places like that, and I'm doing them to just, not just drummers, but guitarists as well and bass players and singers, to be original, I say you have to strive for it, but it's so difficult because you could pick 4 or 5 classic albums, or let's say 10 classic albums, and really it's all been done in those 10 records. But do we think that's the case? No, we don't. We keep going because that's the point, because those people were influenced by somebody else. You could pick any timeline for any band, from Led Zepp to Beatles to anyone. Yes, they're original at times, but they also say, well, we borrowed from the Everly Brothers, or we've borrowed heavily from blues, or we borrowed heavily from that, but just made it our own. And that's the genius, how you twist it. And like David Bowie was great at that. Prince was great at that. They'd nod their hats to people that had been before them, but say, that's been done, but look how I'm doing it. And I'm making it mine and I'm owning it. Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's the same with drumming, because you can't, any student that starts, you just can't be whoever your favorite drummer is straight away. And you're never going to be that anyway. You have to borrow from them, get all that education, and then turn it into something that you want. Because there's certainly one thing that, as a drummer, that when I go to see drummers play at these drum schools and so on, is, when you can see they're clearly borrowing or ripping something direct as is. And that's cool. And I would say, look, that's really good. But now try leading with the other hand, or playing it around the kit in a different way, or making that pattern linear between your hands. Be influenced by Joey Jordison or Steve Gadd, whoever, whatever, Nate Smith, whoever it is, but then try and rebuild it, turn it round on its head, because then you start getting inside yourself and seeing what you can produce. Yes, you can eventually nod your, the cap and stuff, say, thank you, so-and-so for that idea, but now it's mine. I'm doing stuff with it. And that's the genius. And it's hard to get to that because you have to believe in yourself. But, we can all do it. And once you've done it once, you can flip those things around And there's no end to it. Hence why I'm 51. I'm still writing these ideas out. And some of them I think, oh no, that's a Vinny thing I heard. But you know what? What if I put that flam further down then? Yeah, let's do that. And that experimentation suddenly creates something new.
Yes.
And it does feel like mine. I'm not saying it's never been played in the universe ever, but that's not the point. It's about yourself and building your own
just
vocabulary.
Being a bit creative with it as well.
Yeah, it's being an artist, isn't it? So, always trying to further down the boundaries,
Exactly.
And finding your own voice.
Yeah. I think that word artist, you can say that to certain people and they go, oh, look at you, you're an artist. Yeah. but and I get that when you're in a pub chatting to mates, like, oh, listen to him. And that's fine, and you've got to have good humour. I think it was Sheila E. that once wrote, take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And I think that's a really, really good way of looking at it. But yeah, looking at it as that and your own voice, I think it isn't pretentious at all. I think it's it's the truth. And as I'm getting older, I see the drums very differently than when I did, as I think everyone should, than when I was 9 or 10, or when I was 25, or when I was 35, or when I was 45. It changes all the time. And I think taking what you do a little bit seriously isn't a bad thing, and being proud of what you do. And I tell all my students, learn the cliches. We have to learn the cliches. We have to learn all of our different cliches. It's so important because it's the language. But it doesn't mean that when you're allowed to do something yourself that you have to follow these rules. You've got them. They're in a grab bag of stuff that you can use. And that's really important. But at the end of the day, you take from that and you do your own thing, and as long as you've got humility and you listen and you're willing to change your ideas and be pliable working with other musicians, then you're going to do really, 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 really well, Yeah. Just being stuck in your ways and say that's the only thing I do, that's going to be great in a certain situation. But really, if people like my kind of, because I do get emails and stuff from people saying, how did you do it? And everyone's story is different. But that's what I tell them. If you really want my honest answer, these are the things that I've just been saying to you guys. These are the things that I think are really important. And being very personable. I mean, I certainly know, apart from all the stuff I've just said, being personable and, professional, on time, all the regular stuff, which you think should be the easiest. Some people just don't get right.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to be there at 10. Oh, sorry, I thought it was 11.
Yeah.
And everyone's sat in the studio for an hour, or I thought it was yesterday or tomorrow. It's like, yeah, all that sort of stuff. Oh, did I have to bring my own gear? I didn't know. I thought it was all, supplied.
Yeah.
All those daft things. And I've seen people do it. I've been on sessions and word gets round, you don't want that. So, I mean, I'll make sure I've got all that, but also that I'm really open to what people are asking me to do for their music. I was in Real World 2 weeks ago working with someone, and I always say to them, look, I'm an open book. Don't be like, oh, sorry about the programmed drums I put. Don't worry about any of it. I've listened to the tracks. I've asked you some questions. I've come in. I had to use this vintage kit. Why it's here at the moment, actually. I use a vintage thing rather than the DW, which is what I'd normally use. And I say, listen, my ego stays in the car park, basically. When I come in here, I'm basically a conduit for you to get your rhythms and the music out that you need me to give you. That's what I'm here for. And the stories I've heard, some musicians don't do that. They come in with their own kind of, it needs to be
ideas,
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind giving ideas and stuff, but if someone says, listen, man, it's got to be like this. I don't sit there going, well, I'm the drummer and I think it should be like this. And this is the personal bit, to be able to say, cool. Do you want that? I personally think it's the right thing for this track, but you know what? I'm going to do it the best I can for you because that's what you want.
Yeah. I think
that's why I work so much in the studio. One of the reasons, that isn't just playing, it's the mindset.
Yeah. I think being a musician, there's so much collaboration that you have to get on with people and be able to listen and, have that sort of open communication. Because no one in the music industry just works by themselves. Well, I mean, maybe some people, but you're always working with other people. So I think that's such an important skill to have. And I think that's a good teaching skill to have, being able to communicate with someone and relay some information or something, that's what makes a good teacher as well.
Definitely. And, I think listening is so important. You know, I say to some of my students, I say, look, if I send you a text, you don't know the inflections on my words. You don't know if I'm joking or serious. You just see a group of words that you put together, and instantly you think, oh, he's a bit arsey, or he's a bit this, or he's a bit that. But you don't know how I'm coming across, you know. And the thing is, when you listen to someone, you can see their face, you can see the expression. So when they're talking to you about music, you need to be open to that, you know, really open to that, and kind of, as I say, let the ego disappear of what you think things should be. Really open up to what they want and really talk to them about their music. I spent a lot of time, if sessions are, you know, or something's a bit tricky, instead of going over it, you know, I'll suggest we take time out, have a cup of tea, and let's just talk about it. Yeah. Let's talk about what's going wrong, you know, or what's going right, how we can make things better. I think it's really good to shine the light in on a situation, you know, and cast that light and open it out so everyone can suddenly say, well, actually, do you know what? I've never really been happy with my bass line, or I'm not happy. I think we need a click, or and you go, great, and then 10 minutes later, you're all tracking again. And you think, why did we have that little gray area for a minute?
Yeah.
It's just really important. People, you know, that communication thing is, and looking at people, and it's just wonderful. I think that's a massive part of it. There's a certain energy that you can't get remotely, though I'm doing a lot of remotes at the moment, obviously, but that's a different thing. But that thing in the same room, I mean, it's a spiritual thing. It's wonderful. You know, I'm tapping more into that as I get older, definitely.
So we haven't got too long left, but I have a couple more questions for you.
Yes.
The first one is, what has been your favourite gig or band to play with live? And the other one is, can you tell us a little bit if you're working on anything, or you've got any gigs coming up, or music that you're working on?
Okay, and my favourite, I was looking at some photos just last night, actually. We did the Acropolis in Greece. That was amazing, with Loreena Mckennitt, who's the artist that I've been working with the last 3 or 4 years. That's brilliant. Gigging with Siouxsie Sioux, we did the Fillmore clubs, which are very famous clubs in America on the east and the west coast. Doing those were very rock and roll. That's very cool. Royal Albert Hall, another really good one. Somebody else asked me that the other day, actually. There are others, but they're the ones that stick out at the moment. So and the other one, well, I'm actually working on some of my own music. Not that I'm singing, so don't worry, anyone. But I'm just working on some of my own soundscapey type stuff, and trying to explore that for myself. Since I've been doing remotes, I do sessions for myself. I thought, why not? And trying to do it reverse engineering. So I've been going in and, you know, playing drum tracks either to a click or free, and then I'll write the music to that. And that's been a real challenge, and that's great. So that's going to be coming out of probably just separate tracks, you know. I mean, there is... Someone else, a real world, actually approached me the other week saying, "Oh, I'd like to hear your music." And he's got a label, but who knows? I don't think anything is going to come from that. But, you know, that's just brilliant. So watch out for that. There'll be more of that to come.
Well, what do you play on the tracks?
I'm playing everything. So, you know, it's all programmed, you know, it's all programmed stuff. So I'm doing all of that myself. Though I needed a Hammond organ the other day, so I got my friend Tim to play Hammond. So every now and again, when I need something else, I get good old friends to come in for a few cans of beer or a curry. You know, that's the sort of money we're talking here.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. Plus I'm doing some remotes at the moment for a Swiss band called St. Mars, and they're brilliant. So I'm doing stuff for them. Then might be in the studio again with Loreena, but I probably shouldn't be saying that, but she may be coming over to do something of real world at some point. So that'll be happening as well. I'm doing a lot of local gigs recently because friends who don't usually ring me have been saying, will you come and play in the pub? I'm like, of course I will. Let's go and play some blues in a pub. Yeah. So a friend's drummer dropped out. So I'm just doing some local pub gigs. I was in High Wycombe last week in a lovely little pub, just sweaty rock and roll sort of playing. It's just brilliant. Nice. So I'm doing that as well. And also I'm doing my online teaching. So if anybody wants to contact me about that, you can do. I'm sure you guys will have some info at some point.
Yeah, we could leave your info in the comments.
Yeah, send us the links and everything, and we'll put everything in the description. So anyone who's listening who wants to have a listen or get in contact, all the information will be there.
That's brilliant. So yeah, and as I say, lots of different remotes as well. So, and I'm starting to look at masterclasses again. As when people start to feel confident to book them again, which I totally understand. I'm looking at a new little roster of things to bring to the table for that. Because in lockdown, I did a lot of thinking about certain things to do with drumming. So that too. So no rest for the wicked, I'm afraid.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like you're very busy. But we're looking forward to hearing some of your music that you're working on. So.
Great. Yeah, me too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was really good to catch up, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, guys. That was brilliant. Most enjoyable. Take care.